Now got a bad bitch shotgun and she ready to ride. I tell her what she wanna hear just to get in the vibes. She looking for a man, I'm looking for the money. She looking in the wrong place. I ain't through studying.
I stumbled across this video on my timeline this afternoon, and quite honestly, it ruined my day. The first thing that comes to mind is, what a waste. It's the common image of the contradiction that I and most black men meet when trying to avoid the typical loud, belligerent project hoes. Oftentimes, we end up meeting the new modern-day invention, the Smart Hoe. A lot of women out here are playing a game. 20 years ago, hoe culture got off the ground thanks to the white-owned corporate rap machine. The problem is that 20 years later, being a hoe is still pretty popular, especially with females who weren't even raised anywhere near a housing project. But the most important thing to a female is getting attention, and hoe attention is the easiest kind of attention to get. So now we have all these sexually inept, socially awkward females floating around here with underdeveloped personalities who wish they had the sex appeal of a Nicki Minaj or Rihanna, but instead they come across like Alicia Keys, or at best, Halle Berry, a stiff, corny, middle-class female who tries to deal with her inferiority complex by imitating the machismo of girls from the gutter. And everything might have been fine right up until you want a man to respect you. That's when you find out being a hoe is a huge disadvantage. Real hoes like to fight, hang out with jobless criminal reprobates, and having bastard children with them. And at the end of the day, no one respects a hoe. So the non-hoes who weren't bright enough to be prodigies, but not hard enough to be hood rats, created their own little spin on hoe culture. The Smart Hoe. The Smart Hoe is the average female who wants to indulge in all the trashy slum behavior of hood rat hoes to get that easy hoe attention, but at the same time wants to demand more respect than the females they're imitating. The Smart Hoe tells you she's nothing like the weave-wearing hood rats, even though when you open up her music playlist, you'll find Lil Wayne, Chris Brown, T.I., Gucci Mane, Nicki Minaj, and all the same hood rat anthems you find on the Project Chicks. The Smart Hoe doesn't have a name like Kendrika or Bushika. The Smart Hoe has a name like Tiffany or Angela or Teresa. She doesn't speak fluent Ebonics and she can count without using her fingers and toes. You'll never see the Smart Hoe battling another chick on World Star Hip Hop because she's too soft. The last physical altercation she had was in 5th grade, tussling over a Barbie doll with her sister. The Smart Hoe isn't ashamed to have to wear glasses. In fact, they think it gives them a disguise like they're Clark Kent or something. It used to be wearing glasses meant you were a nerd. Now, it just means there's a 50-50 chance you're a hoe with bad eyesight. The Smart Hoe doesn't chase thugs or hood dudes. She's too soft and scary to do that and afraid she'll meet one of their real hood girlfriends. What she does instead is wait for one of them to approach her. Hood dudes are usually broke, and she knows as long as she has a job and a place to stay, she has something she can bargain with for him. In return, he offers her excitement. The Smart Hoe sees her own life as boring. He offers her the chance at escapism, to be like a white kid at a rap concert, a person who's outside of their neighborhood, but you're allowed to be a tourist in his world while you're safely allowed to reside somewhere else. And here's the most important ingredient. The Smart Hoe tells herself that where she went to school or where she works means that she's immune from being categorized as a hoe, no matter how ratchet she acts the rest of the day. She thinks she can listen to all the gutter rappers singing about women being trashy all she'd like. She can watch all the hood TV shows she can handle, and she can post any hood rap material on her Facebook timeline she wants to. But as long as she's got an associate's degree or can spell the word sophisticated, then that alone means men shouldn't treat her like the full-flavored hoes. She thinks she's attained diet hoe status. They say Karl Rove got Democrats in Texas to think like Democrats but vote like Republicans. And the same is true with the Smart Hoe. She thinks like an intelligent woman, but she behaves and identifies with slum females. And this is the reason that black men are not impressed by where a woman went to school. Because we know what's going on in these schools. When you look at Morehouse or Spelman, these are basically hood schools where weaves, spanks, and booty pictures are a common sight. The idea that these places are factories churning out elegant, intelligent women in the mold of Coretta Scott King is a lie that even these schools no longer try to perpetrate. And their graduates leave the school with a sheet of paper that tells us absolutely nothing about their lack of personal character, no matter what profession they go into. Your paralegals are smart hoes. Your school teachers are smart hoes. Your corrections officers and parole officers are smart hoes. Your human resources managers are smart hoes. Your lawyer and your nurse and your college professor and your bank tellers and loan managers are smart hoes. We all know women are full of contradictions. That's a given. But it's gotten to the point that the contradictions have led to a full-blown break with reality. What makes you think you'll be treated differently from the run-of-the-mill hood rat when men see you listening to her music, watching her TV shows, and using her vocabulary? What is the point of getting a degree and getting a career if all you're going to do is trash it by going back down to the level of acting like the uneducated GED chicks you claim you aren't like? You can put on a suit and wear glasses and think you're making yourself invisible, but your hoe gene is fully expressed for everyone to see. And in that instant, your degree and your glasses and your suit become worthless in the eyes of a man because he knows he's not really getting a woman. He's getting a hood rat that's just repackaged as a career woman. The truth is that smart hoe is an oxymoron, but you get into real trouble when you start trying to live as if it isn't, because that's a lie. And women who lie attract men who lie. If you told him you were a career woman who's intelligent and socially conscious, but then you got booty-shaking music coming out of your speakers, then you've lied to him about what kind of person you are. Therefore, he's okay with lying to you about not sleeping with your friends or your sister. After all, if you get to misrepresent yourself to him, then he will misrepresent himself to you. Now, I can already hear the gears turning in the heads of the females still in denial. They'll say things like, the kind of music I listen to doesn't matter because that's not who I am. This is another delusion. What you feed your mind is more important than what you feed your body. If you're comfortable and can bob your head while the sounds around you degrade you for being a woman, that's no different than a black person in a room full of Republicans degrading you for being African. Claiming to be oblivious to people insulting you is not a badge of honor. The other defense we're bound to hear is that I don't subscribe to that lifestyle. It's just a guilty pleasure. The problem with a guilty pleasure is that you're still guilty. Furthermore, what kind of person are you if you derive pleasure from something that supposedly simultaneously makes you feel guilty? Guilt, by definition, is supposed to make you feel ashamed. And if you feel pleasure from something you're supposed to be ashamed of, then it's unlikely you feel any shame at all. And other people have no problem abusing a person who admits they have no shame. The biggest complaint among professional black women today is their inability to get a, quote, good man. But the problem is most professional black women today are trying to live a double life. They want hoe attention on hoe standards, but they don't want hoe treatment. They want to dabble with slum culture, but don't want to be treated like slum females. They think going to school and wearing glasses will give them a pass from being lumped in with hood rats, even when they do hood rat stuff. And the people it's hurting most are these women. This is backfired because as men, we can see right through those things. Now the women are complaining men treat every woman they meet like a hoe. But the truth is that most women approach us as hoes. They just think they're pulling the wool over our eyes, trying to be smart hoes, until we double-cross them, and then they want to scream bloody murder. The reason being an imitation hoe doesn't work is because most of you aren't built to be one. That's what happened in the now infamous Sharkeisha video. The other girl who Sharkeisha hit was clearly out of her element. You could see it by what they were both wearing. Unlike Sharkeisha, the other girl was modestly dressed, wore glasses, and talked in quiet, demure tones. And yet, She was surrounded by hood rats, and this is a prime example of what's happening with most of the black women today who want to tell themselves they're prime real estate, but then they want to bring us the exact same behavior of Sharkeisha. When you run with a pack of hoes, play hoe music, and do hoe dancing, then you have achieved hoe status, even if you want to lie to yourself and say you haven't. You aren't fooling the men, and you aren't even fooling the hood rats either. You can put on a suit. You can slick your hair back. You can get your eyes and nails done. You can get a job at whatever company you want. Buy the nicest car you can find. Date all the multi-ethnic men you like. And make all the demands you can imagine of men. But at the end of the day, if you and Bushika both get the same thrill from the same music and the same men and the same behavior, then you will both get treated the same because you are the same person at heart. One of you is just a weak imitation of the other. A final lesson, ladies, especially the young ones who think that attention is some form of currency and has monetary value to it. Learn to appreciate a boring life. Learn to relish the security of knowing what your day will be like and how you'll deal with it. Most of all, learn to value and cherish the kind of man who'll complement your so-called boring life, because a man who gets bored will eventually find you to be boring, and he'll go looking for someone more exciting. So be grateful for a man who can look at the same woman in the same suit, listening to the same respectable music in the same house every day, and never get tired of seeing her. A lot of you feel like you missed out in high school. You developed an inferiority complex because you feel like the hood rat girls in school got all the attention that you think you were entitled to. Grow up! You're not in high school anymore, but we got a bunch of you out here still operating like you are, and the men treat you like silly girls because you're acting like it. At what point do you stop competing to be kids and start competing to be women? When do you put away your childish things and start emulating some adult behavior? If you're 35 years old but you're still trying to get the same type of attention you were trying to get at 18, you need to recognize that as a problem. When you see a 30-year-old man walking around sagging his pants like he's a teenager, he shouldn't expect anyone to treat him like a respectable man. And when you see a supposedly grown professional woman behaving like a hood rat chick with no job and no class, she shouldn't expect anyone to treat her like a respectable woman. At the end of the day, a smart hoe is still a dumb hoe.